Many companies nowadays offer the promise of a flagship phone at an affordable price point, but few manage to actually deliver on that promise in an acceptable manner. Xiaomi has consistently proved itself to be an outlier in this regard, and its latest Mi 6 reaffirms this by offering the key characteristics of a high-end device while cutting as few corners as possible. However, this isn't something made immediately obvious by its pedestrian-looking metal and glass exterior. Sure, it's not an ugly phone by any stretch of the imagination, but it offers nothing we haven't seen countless times before. And this is quite disappointing because Xiaomi is the same company that brought us the innovative Mi Mix last year. The 5.2-inch 1080p display is sufficiently bright, but its colors are fairly inaccurate even when you disable the confusingly named automatic contrast setting. One thing you might notice right away is the fairly ugly way the display turns off. It has no animation, and the different pixels turn off at slightly different times, resulting in a fairly jarring effect. If you ask Xiaomi, one of the biggest features in the Mi 6 is its rear-facing dual-camera module. Truth be told, the rear shooter is actually quite good, even if its colors veer into oversaturated territory a bit. However, the fact that it's a dual camera has little to do with this. You see, the camera configuration is pretty much the same as the one found in the iPhone 7 Plus, meaning that the second shooter is only used when zooming in or when shooting in portrait mode. The problem is that the second sensor has no optical stabilization at all, and if there is a software implementation in there, it isn't doing much, meaning that your zoomed-in photos will more often than not look a bit blurry. Likewise, the portrait mode is okay, but often doesn't detect the object bounce as well as it should, resulting in ghosting lines. As for the front camera, there isn't really that much to say. It's your run-of-the-mill 8-megapixel shooter, with its only notable feature being the beautification filter, which you should turn off pretty much immediately. But when it comes to real-life performance, the Mi 6 is a beast. Beneath its unassuming exterior, you'll find Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 coupled with 6GB of RAM, which result in a blazingly fast device that doesn't buckle under pressure like a number of its peers do. However, Xiaomi's own MIUI Android skin is quite heavy on the iOS aesthetics, with stuff like the settings menu and the multitasking screen feeling like they were lifted straight from an iPhone. And while it offers a surprising amount of small but welcome features, it also suffers from some glaring feature omissions, like the lack of Android's Nougat split-screen mode, for example. And lastly, a couple of extra notes. First, its fairly large battery capacity puts it at the top end of the current flagship spectrum, and it will comfortably last you upwards of a day with moderate usage. Also, the fingerprint scanner on the front is one of the fastest ones available on the market right now. And lastly, the phone features an IR blaster which can be used to control one of the many supported home appliances, but unfortunately it can't be custom programmed. While the phone will, in theory, cost you just $360 for the cheaper 64GB model, this is the price you'll be getting in China, with no import costs or retail markups factored in. And since you can only purchase the device in a select few markets, if you happen to live outside of those, you either have to put up with the higher price or go for something more affordable instead. Regardless, the Mi 6 is overall a pretty good device. While there's no doubt that Xiaomi cut some corners to reduce costs, most of these calls were indeed the right ones, and the end result is a device that will perform great, but it won't offer much beyond the ordinary. For the full review of the Xiaomi Mi 6, make sure to head over to PhoneArena.com for our dedicated article.